Hi folks, this is all the fruit. I'm on the island of Borneo with its incredibly complicated and enigmatic mangoes. Well, for those of you who don't know, what we get in the Western world and over much of the world is just one single species, Mangifera indica, which has been bred into hundreds of recognized and thousands of non-generally recognized and accepted varieties. But here in Borneo, we have dozens of actually different species and probably also dozens of undiscovered species and maybe hundreds of wild forms of mangoes. And this one seems quite enigmatic even for Borneo standards. I did not try to identify it, but made the video. I will identify it later or try to identify it later, but if you have some idea what it can be, tell me. Well, it definitely seems to be something of the Mangifera foetida group. In the Bidayut dialect of the town of Serian, where I got it on the market, they call it Asam Kamantan. Basically all over Borneo, those smelly green mangoes, which are Mangifera foetida and probably a couple other related species, are called Asam. And yeah, it definitely reeks of this typical strong machine oil, diesel smell mixed with fruit. Basically it smells, if you're from California, it smells like stink laurel, like this dangerous tree which you shouldn't touch or burn or even get close to it. Yeah, like a smell, a mixture of diesel and mullet wine. And if you smell one of this, or a California stink laurel, before the Christmas time, you will never be able to enjoy your Glühwein or Feuerzangenbowle if you're in Germany, or mullet wine if you are in some of the Anglo-Saxon countries. The whole season has basically died for you, because every time you smell a mullet wine, a glass of mullet wine, it will remind you of this fruit, which will remind you of diesel and machine oil in its term. Well, what is so special about this fruit is, first, its shape. Look at that. The lady who sold those was selling just two of the big ones, but three little baskets full of the small ones. There were maybe 10 or 15 of the small ones in each basket. I took one of the smallest. So this is basically the size range she was selling. This is the biggest by far. And this is one of the smallest. The normal, the average size was maybe 1.5 times the diameter of this one, and maybe a little bit 2 or 3 times the volume of this one. Yeah, so big size difference, but pretty much all of them were like squished together. Look at that. A normal mango is elongated or round, but this is shaped like a hamburger almost. This is more wide than it is tall, and this applies to the big one and to the small one. Of course, when I wanted to buy them, she explained to me those are not fruit to be consumed as a fruit. Those are for sambal, or for hot spicy sauce. Well, the funny thing is, some of the mangoes which were sold to me as being good only for hot spicy sauce, so basically only for cooking with them, were actually quite good fruit, while some of the mangoes which were sold to me as fruit, I wouldn't consider them edible. Well, now let's try this one. We already established the shape and the smell. Now let's see what it is on the inside. Oh god, cutting stuff with one hand is really not too easy. Well, okay, still not sure how thick the rind is. Thicker than in an average Mangifera indica, but yeah, you cannot tell exactly where the rind starts and the flesh stops. Very fibrous, like most of those wild mangoes. Nobody has bred the fibers out of them. Funny thing is, there are also some wild mangoes in Borneo which have almost no fibers. But this one is still one of the very fibrous ones, and I guess the fibers will be very coarse. Well, very sour, but also pretty sweet. The fibers are unpleasant, of course. The flavor is a mixture of the smell of this machine oil diesel smell. I've got some sap on my lips. My lips are gonna itch for days again. Either from the rind of this one, or more probably from the rind of the Bambagan mango. Well, the flesh, quite pale, but very juicy. Look at that. I just squeeze it with my nail and the whole river of juice runs down. See? Thick puddle of juice. So, very sweet, very sour, very juicy, with a flavor which is a mix of disgusting and pleasant. Actually, people in Southeast Asia eat such mangoes as fruit. Some of them like the flavor. Now, let's try the smaller one. I wonder, well, she insisted that both are the same. So I wonder, did they grow on the same tree? Are there two different generations? Are the small ones maybe growing in big bunches and the big ones just one or two survived in the bunch? Okay, it's more green but also very juicy, and I guess it is ripe. Well, if it's so juicy, probably it is ripe. More sour, and there is also a tiny bit of a stinging flavor. So this one is definitely better. The big one is definitely better. Also a trace of bitterness. Not as sweet as the big one. The sourness of this one might actually even be more delicate than the sourness of this one, but it lacks sweetness and it lacks flavor. It lacks the complexity of flavor of this one. Yeah, it's basically more astringent, and also it's more astringent than this one, while this one is more diesel machine oil like. Well, it will never become my favorite mango, but if I had to eat those mangoes, I would definitely I would definitely prefer the big one. First, because it's much bigger. Okay, don't want to eat it from the ground. Second, because it's much sweeter. And third, that because despite of its machine oil smell, which is stronger than in this one, the whole complicated composition of flavors in this one is more enjoyable than in this one. It gets even more and more difficult to describe the flavors of the different mangoes here. There are so many and they are so complicated. Well, folks, this was a yet unidentified by myself, quite interesting stink mango from the, well, jungles or farms of Borneo. Stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos from the beautiful island of Borneo. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.